This show is sponsored by Sevi, answering all your commercial real estate needs. Sevi is the first commercial real estate company committed to the 4 C's: commercial real estate, community, content, and culture. Go visit Sevi at Sevi, S-E-V-I, properties.com. Again, SeviProperties.com. Hello everyone, welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest for you. We have Sean Pyun, the CEO and President of Golfzon America. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Thanks, Otto. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk to you.
Me too. I can't wait to get into your story and journey. But before that, I'd like the audience to get to know the business a little better, just in case they haven't heard from it, which I'm sure they have, because you guys are a juggernaut. But they're like, what do they do? What is that? Something to do with golf? If you could just give us a brief explanation, please.
Sure. So our company, Golfzon, was founded in the year 2000, based in Korea. Our chairman was actually an engineer working for Samsung until he was 50-some years old. One day he just realized, I love my career at Samsung in engineering, but I want to do something that's more fun, that I can impact everybody. And he loves the game of golf. And he said, you know what? In Korea, playing the game of golf is very difficult for multiple reasons. It's far, it's expensive, it takes a lot of time, 3 of which none of the Koreans really have on a daily basis. And he thought, with my mechanical engineering and the network infrastructure background and my love for the game of golf, could I create a culture that is easily transferable and translatable into the Korean culture? So the company was founded in 2000 with the sole focus of providing the easier access to the game of golf and have more people enjoy the game of golf. So that's how we started. Today in Korea, we have about 7,000 Golfzon locations. As you say, we're talking about in this space worldwide. We're the largest simulator company by the market cap, revenue, and also the number of shots we track. We track over 7.5 billion shots every year. You know, I can tell you in Korea, there's about 5 million rounds of golf being played. I take that back, 50 million rounds of golf played in Korea. On Golfzon alone, not the simulators, but Golfzon alone, we double that number. So what that tells you about our technology and our business, that it's sticky, fun. It's something that many people are now coming into to pick up the club for the first time. So we feel like we've made a pretty good mark on that front in Korea. And now we're really trying to translate our business to North America. We've been here from 2017. Now we've grown to, I think we've grown over 40 times since we started. Our simulators are in hot demands. I'm selling our products at the moment. I don't have products to sell, but our goal is the same, making an accessible and actually equitable and easy environment for people to come and enjoy the game of golf. So that's who we are. We're into selling products and technology to entrepreneurs that want to open the golf simulator bars or of some sort in the entertainment space. We also run our own businesses in Golfzon Social and Golfzon Ratings, 2 of our directly operated storefront. They're all located in Northeast in US. I have 7 locations today. And we also own a Golfzon Ledbetter Academy, you know, David Ledbetter. So we're now infusing that business with technology and growing that business worldwide. Now we have 33 Ledbetter Academy location in 15 different countries. So that's in a nutshell who we are. We're trying to be a good constituent of the game, and more so than putting our heaviest emphasis on revenue, it's about growing the game of golf and having people come into our system.
I love that. And especially since I've been reading articles how some of these golf courses in North America, I don't know how it is abroad, but have been closing down just because of the lack of demand and people actually attending.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm going to go back and reference Korea quite a bit, just because that's where we're from and where we've seen a lot of progress, growth, failure, success. We've experienced all of those in Korea. Through the COVID days, golf has grown significantly around the world, but in Korea, it's especially by a significant amount. We now have the largest golf apparel market cap in the world, despite the small size of the country. Number of rounds has spiked to an unusual amount, and we attracted a lot of young golfers into the golf industry or the ecosystem. Well, with the COVID and the price going up, all of those have tailed off, except for the number of rounds on screen golf, and we call it screen golf in Korea. It's a generally accepted term for indoor golfing. So we feel like we've played a significant part of growing that game and putting the clubs in the hands of people. When the COVID happened, everybody was flock out to the golf course. So we saw that growth, and we've seen a lot of that in Korea. We think a lot of that is going to happen also in the States. Up to this point, we're seeing a lot of the failures we experienced are happening again in the States. We're seeing a lot of the successes we've created are also happening in the States. So I think it's golfers are golfers, right? Like you can have a different demographic, you can come from a different country, but most golfers have all the same traits and characteristics, and we believe our business is going to translate here very, very well.
Do you see, Sean, your simulators or screen, as you call them, are they mostly going to commercial, meaning businesses, or do you see them also going private, maybe to private residents, and then they want to practice their golf swing at home?
Sure. That's a really good question, Otto, because I think that shows where the industry trend is headed. When we first started our business in 2017 here, 80% of our business was residential customers, high net worth individuals, and the golf nuts that wanted to create the basement experience of Golf Simulator. But now our business has completely shifted. 80% of our business are now going to the commercial customers. And generally speaking, our systems are kind of categorized as a commercial grade systems, and it's a lot more expensive than some of the other systems that you could purchase in the marketplace. But what used to be an amusement and entertainment option in your basement now has become a business option for a lot of young entrepreneurs. Some people are putting their entire retirement savings into this. Now I've got people who are going to fourth, fifth, sixth stores with Golfzone technology, franchising their businesses out. So if you look at us like Subway, not only do I serve my sandwiches in Subway, I'm actually giving all my recipes to the Subway to individual franchise owners and small business people that want to open their business with a proven technology, proven sandwich per se. It's been fun. So I think the trend and how American consumers and public is accepting the alternate forms of golf is now really at the forefront of our industry. And the commercial business has grown significantly, not just for Golfzone, but overall simulator industry.
That's interesting. So you're also franchising it? Is that part of what you do, or is that just them? You just sell, for example, the equipment?
So we have our own storefronts called Golfzone Social, which I have 3 locations in the Northeast, and then I have Golfzone Rings. Those are 2 directly operated the storefronts for us. We will be looking to franchise that at some point. We're not quite there yet. We're still working through our business kind of models and what works in different areas, but we're looking to open a couple more in the Midwest this year. And beyond that, there's an opportunity for us to franchise. So that's our direct storefront. But also, I have a lot of customers, what I call commercial customers, whether it's Golf NB in LA or the Tee Times in Michigan. These guys are employing the Golfzone technology to really be successful and franchise their business model within their area. So we have 2 different stories as it relates to the franchising, but I've got now 5 or 6 different companies that's already applied for franchise business with the FDD, and we're just the technology solution to those entrepreneurs.
That's amazing. I know we got started and already went into the business. On a personal side of things, are you originally from this area, Sean?
No, you know what? I'm not. I just moved to the Virginia in January of this year. So first time I've ever been in this area, other than being here for an LPGA event at Kingsmill, Virginia. This is really the first time I've been in the state. And I got to tell you, I mean, here the people are very well educated, very sophisticated, not very flashy, but I love those things about the people in this area. Like I've lived in Seoul, I've lived in Dallas, LA, San Francisco, Orlando, a lot of different places coming to DC. I gotta say, this is probably the best and most favorable place for me and my wife. And so far, it's been a blast.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, welcome. Welcome to the DMV.
I love it. The other day I was playing a little bit of golf at the club that I belong to, and I saw President Trump. And this was like a day after the debate, and it was interesting. That just made me realize, wow, I'm in DC. Like I'm seeing these people.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool aha moment for, now the DC DMV resident.
Well, that's nice. I know you mentioned, Saul, and you live in other places abroad. Where were you born?
I was born and raised in Korea, Seoul, Korea.
Okay.
So when I turned, I believe I was 13, maybe 13 and a half. I moved to the States alone because my parents saw an opportunity for me to study abroad. And really, you talk about, American dreams, and I know it could be a cliche at this point, but that's really what I am. My parents put hard-earned money into sending me overseas and really broaden my horizon and be able to go through junior high, high school, college, and graduate school to be able to get to my job and really have a successful career to this point. It's all owed to them, but Korea is still who I am inside, and
Sure.
I'm 100% Korean and Korean American, but Korean at heart.
Yeah, that definitely that's home. Did you have family here when you came at 13?
No, I stayed with host families. So I stayed with my father's friends for 6 months and mother's friends for 6 months. And then I had my own apartment since I was 16 years old.
Wow.
I
Okay.
didn't pay for it. My parents paid for it. But I was
Yeah.
a total
But you were
occupant
on your
and
own.
I was. Yeah. So I've been on my own since 14 or 15 away from my family.
Sean, if I can take you back briefly growing up in Korea, before you were 13, what were you into? Did you start golf at a pretty young age, or were you into other activities or sports growing up?
Yeah, I'm still a terrible golfer, so the golf wasn't part of my kind of options when I was growing up. But my parents really liked golf, even when I was in elementary school. They kept asking me like, you should play golf, but like when you were 12 and 13, your parents keep telling you to do one thing, like you look the other way, right? So growing up, I was an athlete. I played both tennis and baseball at a young age in elementary school. I played tennis throughout high school and the first year in college. I played baseball through end of high school.
Okay. When you came here, was this your first time coming to America at 13 when you moved here?
I came here for summer school, I think the year before, which is what got me to want to move to the States. What was really interesting at the time, even as a 12-year-old, is when I'm in Korea, you get out of school at 3 o'clock, then you go to the secondary school. You work on your math. And when that gets finished at 5 o'clock, I go to English. And I go through 3 or 4 different secondary school programs, and I come home at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, go to sleep, wake up, and go back to work, go back to school. It was the same thing every day. But when I came here for summer school, this was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I was floored because they would have summer school through 12 o'clock and everybody go out to the field, play soccer, play baseball. I mean, I was like, this is heaven, right? And then, our host family required me to speak English in order for me to help. So this was an English program. I was really hungry, but I couldn't tell them I was hungry. They wouldn't give me food. So at that point, my mindset, everything I was doing, I was thinking about in English. So I got into the habit of that. And then, going back to Korea, I just wanted to come back to the States. Every day I was there, I kept asking my parents, like, can I go to the States? They're like, dude, you're 13. Like, I can't send you over to US. But I was persuasive enough. I think I was a salesperson at heart, even when I was 12 or 13. I worked them over and I got here when I was 13 and a half. And since then, I mean, I've loved everything about the programs and the life that the United States offers. And it's been a home run for me and my family.
What time did you start school in Korea? I know you said you ended at around 9:30 you got home.
Yeah, so at the time when I was in school, we were still going to school on Saturdays too. So Monday through Saturday, we would be in school from like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. But once you get off, there's this thing called Hot One, which is a secondary school like academies, and you go to English, science. I was getting home probably around 9 or 10 o'clock every night, and this was when I was in like seventh grade.
Okay. Well,
And
that's
I knew it was
interesting.
only getting worse from that point through high school. It
Yeah.
just wasn't in the cards for me. I wasn't an academic person. I was
Okay.
more into going doing things and having a good time. So, I mean, God bless me. I had the visionary parents who I know it's a tough thing to send your child out to the world when he was 13, but I had just a good set of parents who believed in me and believed in doing the right thing. And that's how I got here.
The secondary program after the 3 o'clock ended, is that also with the state or government, or is that supplemental that each parent has to decide
Supplemental.
whether, oh, it's okay.
Supplemental, yeah. It's which brings up the cost of education for all of the kids and the families in Korea,
Yeah.
because everybody else is doing it. It's tough to just be left out of those kind of cycles of different academies. I was doing English and I was doing math, I was doing science and overall comprehensive. And then on the weekends, I would have like an English tutoring program once a week. And it was just a full academic schedule, which when you're not an academia person, like it's just
Yeah.
a kind of hell, you know.
Yeah. Do you have any children yourself?
No children, but I have a
Okay.
dog who's an influencer on Instagram. He's got like
Oh,
10,000 followers, you know,
wow. He's more famous than you.
10 times more, you know. He gets sponsorship from the like a dog food company and dog apparel company. He gets sponsorships and does like photo shoots.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice. Well, hey, at least hopefully that helps pay the vet bill and the dog food and everything else.
Yes, it's been helpful.
The reason I was asking is I was just recently having a conversation. I have three boys, and I was driving them to camp actually. I think it was yesterday, and they were complaining. They're like, "Oh, the summer's almost over." I'm like, "What are you guys talking about? There's almost about a month left." And they're like, "Oh, but I wish the summer was my school year, and then the rest of the school year was my summer, sort of basically days off." And I'm like, "No, you have it backwards, buddy." I'm like,
Well, I mean, they're gonna get a reality check once they grow up and say there is no more summer in the work schedule. So I would just tell them to enjoy it as much as they can every day that they have today, because it's not forever.
yeah. And I was joking with them. I'm like, I need to ship you to some Asian countries because you don't know how lucky you guys have it here. I'm like, we're gonna get our lunch eaten here in America if we do that schedule that you're talking about. So when you mentioned your schedule, I'm like, huh. So that's what I was gonna ask if you were a parent, because if not, what do you think of that? Would you want your child to go through a similar schedule? Are you growing up in Korea or more sort of what we have here in the United States?
Well, I mean, I'm really stepping outside of my boundary to answer these questions. I'm by no means any kind of expert in education, but drawing from my personal experience, and I think everybody's different, right? There are
Sure.
some kids who would work better in more structured environment, and but there's something to be said about why the world is still being run by Americans in the U.S. and in the world. And you can criticize any different educational system or whatnot, but the way I took it in is when I was in Korea, we were very focused on every process. We're very focused on how to get to A to B. In US, I think it's more about just making sure you get to B and understand looking at things in a more grand scheme of things versus accounting, management. So being in US and being able to really socially interact with people and have a lot more social opportunity to hang out with people, which I think golf could be a great social connector amongst people. Um,
Definitely.
I think that plays an integral role into how you grow. So that when I work with a lot of my counterparts in Korea, and this is the first time I'm working for a Korean company, there are certain differences and nuances. I wish they would think more like us, you know.
Mhm.
And that may just be personally because I feel more of American than Korean now that I've lived in this country for so long. Um, but we're rational. We're no nonsense. We usually go right after the problem. I don't know if that's the education or whatnot, but in Korea, it's lots of formal process, lots of analytical thinking, and how did this get? So both have pros and cons, but like the way I would approach it, if I had my kids, I would definitely send them to school in the States.
Okay. That's good to know. I wanted your viewpoint since you live both. I grew up
Yes.
here, so all I know is sort of the American school system.
Yeah, I think in Korea, everybody somehow seem to get bunched up into a one kind of a category. Either you're academic and have a good grade, or you don't. Where in US, I feel like it's more about, well, he's got musical talent. Well, he's got this kind of talent. How do we further develop that talent versus you have to first be a really good student for you
Hmm.
to pursue that next level of dream. Whereas here, if the parents notice my kid is really good at baseball, like you can pursue that baseball dream. In Korea, that's significantly difficult.
So did you stay in Pennsylvania all through high school?
I didn't know. It was Pennsylvania was just summer school. I originally moved to LA. I spent a year in LA,
Uh,
gone to private school just to realize like there was everybody else in that school was Korean. So there was really no way for me to either learn the culture or learn the language, more so for language, because I love the subjective English language since I was really young. For whatever reasons, I've never had nothing less than A or 100% on my English test when I was growing up in Korea or exams. So that was a little tough. And then I really grew up in Dallas, Texas. So from LA, my parents, I figured out like I need to get to a different place to really learn the language. And so we moved to Dallas, and I grew up and finished junior high school and went to SMU in Dallas. Then I graduated, went to San Francisco for University of San Francisco for graduate sport management program, and that's where I found my first job with the LPGA Tour.
So in college, Sean, did you know you wanted to get something to do with sports or golf specifically? When did you get that, I guess, aha moment as far as maybe your
Uh,
career?
there are a couple moments. So um, I'll start with this. So when I was a senior in college, and the last semester, we all think about, oh my God, where am I going to get a job, or what am I going to do? Um, so my father, set me down and said, "Hey, what do you want to do? Like, if you didn't really have to worry about money, if you didn't have to worry about education or what you're majoring, like, what would you want to do in this?" So I thought, like, let me think about it. Like, I know what I don't want to do, and that's staying in the library and studying for exams. So whenever I'm studying for exams, I need to get away from that. I always go to the computer and go to the ESPN.com. I would just read all about the sports. I would even go into boxing and curling and all the things that didn't even matter, only because I didn't really want to study, right?
Yeah.
So I knew that kind of went back to my earlier days with my mom in Korea. We went to baseball game every week. You know, my mom would take me to a baseball game. We'll go once a week. It was about a 15-minute drive from her. So I grew up around the baseball game. And when I go to the baseball game, although, as you know, we have to buy tickets. We stand in line, buy tickets. Back then, there was no internet tickets, no Ticketmaster. So we're standing in this long line, whereas I see these people with some sort of credential that just walks right into the player locker room. Those were the reporters. And I told my mom, I want that for my birthday. You know, I didn't know what that was. So those two things connected in my head when
Sure.
my dad asked the question, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I really want to be in sports." And he said, "How do you get to be in sports?" So the first thing I went to Google and say, "How do you get into sports industry?" The first thing that popped up at University of San Francisco graduate sport management program. That's the first thing that literally popped up as a sponsored banner on the Google. Clicked on it, saw it, and I went took the test and went to graduate school. And that's how I kind of got my sport track started with the school.
Sure. But you weren't sure as far as what sport or I guess what role in sport. I mean, you could be back office, you could be an agent, you could be many things, right?
That's right. That's right. I would tell you, golf definitely was not on my mind. Again, I played baseball and tennis for a long time. I wanted to be the Jerry Maguire, and that movie really inspired me. And I wanted to be the agent. But once you got to school and learning with different peers, understanding the industry, agent business was the least the one that I wanted because it was so cutthroat. It relied on heavily on the network and just didn't know, I mean, didn't think that's where I wanted to
Sure.
go. But I wanted to really break into the industry in any way possible because I think you may know in the sports industry, if you are not doing a good job, there are people who are just lined up behind you. They're
Mhm.
passionate sports fans who sometimes confuse their passion with the skill set of sports and they want to just break into the industry. There's no money for internship. There's no money for these experiences. Like you just go and there's a lot of people that are just standing right behind you in line, waiting for you to fail. So I just wanted to break in. I had an opportunity to intern for several different companies, including the Golden State Warriors and the NBA, Nike golf camps, and then LPGA tournament in San Francisco. And I really enjoyed it. It was tough work, waking up 3 in the morning, moving boxes from a big truck to a hospitality fan expo area, all the vendors. So I started doing that. I really enjoyed it. And I remember one of my intern mate was saying like, I didn't get into graduate school so I can move boxes. And I remember thinking that's funny because I got to the graduate school so I can move these boxes. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have that opportunity. So that's how I got into golf. So it wasn't something that I wanted to do from the beginning per se, but as I kind of started to get into the industry, I saw the niche on the women's golf with the number of Korean and Asian players performing at a high level. LPGA still didn't have a business executive or sales strategy to take advantage of that. And if I could see that as in the eyes of the graduate student, I'm sure everybody else was seeing it. And
Mhm.
when I actually made that comment to then Chief Marketing Officer of LPGA, he bought that and he brought me in for an interview, and I got a job as a player services coordinator, which is just traveling to every event, working with our players, put some very invaluable knowledge of the ecosystem and pros and cons of the LPGA in my mind. I work a lot with the sponsors, activation side, on site, and with the players, and it was probably the greatest opportunity I had to break into the game of golf into the sports industry.
I love this story, Sean, especially that you started at the bottom, just, as an intern moving boxes.
Yeah, yeah. And I still stay in touch with the guys. So when you go into an LPGA or PGA Tour event, so there's a main agency that runs the tournament. They hire another agency to do ropes and stakes. They hire another agency to all the other things. And I was at the bottom of that agency role.
Hmm.
And but I did work hard. I don't think I'm the smartest person that you're ever going to meet or whatnot, but I can tell you that I was always one of the hardest working people in any organization that I've been to. And I think the LPGA really saw that for a year and a half, because I worked at the two separate events for the under LPGA sanction. So it was good. And I mean, I always tell people when I give some lectures at the colleges and students, I tell them, don't worry about who's looking, just work hard. Trust me, someone's looking. And that really helped out. And I worked really, really hard. I mean, I wasn't getting paid $1. The internship was hour, 40 minutes away from home. And I needed to be there by 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was just a very tough one, but it also makes you commit further,
Yeah.
especially someone with my background, my parents sending me all the way from Korea, cost them money, resources, the separation anxiety, all of that is in me. So whatever I commit to and put forward, I know all of that is behind me and on my shoulders. So every time I had an opportunity to impress people or have leave my mark, I've always gone 120%, you know?
Yeah, I believe you appreciate the opportunity you were giving, and maybe that's the immigrant mindset because a lot of us come to this country for better opportunity, right? A better future for ourselves and family. And once we have that little crack of door that's open, we was like, let's take advantage and just run through it and see if we can open it wider.
Yeah, I mean, all I needed when I was in school in my earlier days is I just needed somebody to help me see the door, and I will walk through that door. And the immigration mindset, Otto, is very interesting thing that you say because I used to talk about this when people ask, why are Koreans or Asians so good on the LPGA tour? Like, what's driving them? It's really to be able to play as somebody else's country in a completely different environment, food, and culture. I'm making a lot of sacrifices, whether that's my family, friends, familiar surroundings, and environment. I'm coming here for sole focus, very laser focused and being the LPGA player, successful player that are making my family proud, generating good money. I mean, that's focus, right? Like all the things that we have to sacrifice, it
Mhm.
makes your focus and commitment that much stronger. So I used to kind of talk about that a little bit. It's no different for immigrants, myself, whomever. We are making sacrifices. Our family is making sacrifice for the focus of getting the better life, better quality of life, doing better than what you were given, and that I think fuels your motivation a little bit, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree with 100%. I wasn't born here. I'm an immigrant myself, Sean, but I grew up here in the Washington, D.C. metro area. But just like that, my parents had to flee our country. And, I was the first one in my immediate family to graduate college. And you just have to take advantage of it because if not, what are you here for? It's a waste of time almost, in my personal opinion.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I could just as easily waste my time that way in Korea and not cost my family that kind of resources to so I can get in trouble here. But I think it's all part of the process, like you have the DNA, you come from where you come from and where your families come from. And I think those are all part of the makeup of making you who you are today. I believe that I'm a firm believer of myself carrying the identity of my families, my parents, and what they've done and what they kind of put, invested in me to become. I think those are all big part of, who I am and what I do.
So once you graduated grad school, you had that job after the CMO overheard that comment, and then that was your foot in. And then from there, you just grew within the LPGA.
Yeah. So, in my first interview going into the LPGA, I mean, I don't know if you're interested in all the full story, but um, so there was six of us, I think, or five of us that was vying for the same job, right?
Okay.
So this was like the first week of November we were supposed to interview, but then the senior VP calls and say, "Hey, we have to postpone your interview because we got a big rookie orientation this week. Rookie orientation is like when you make the LPGA tour and secure the card. Everybody used to come in for 2 days at the LPGA headquarters, go through a lot of different education and seminars to how to become a member, right? So she said, okay, we're going to postpone all of the process. We're going to move it back and we'll do it next week. And I said, that's fine. But I looked up your rookie roster this year. You have 4 Koreans. Have you already gotten the Korean translator? She said, no, I'm working on that. I said, well, why don't I just come? Because I'm going to be there next week anyways. Why don't I come a week early, kind of learn the rookie orientation, and why don't I help you translate? And then after that, we can interview. I don't have nothing better to do. And she said, okay, got it. So I came. The other five never had an opportunity to interview for this job. And that's how I got to the LPGA.
Oh, I love it.
But during that interview, I told the commissioner then, which was amazing. You don't get an opportunity to interview with your CEO when you're a coordinator, unless, like at the entry level. And I told her, I don't know what got into me, but I told her what I want to do is to really do selling and help you with your international business growth versus this. But I understand this is the only way I can come into your organization now. So I'm grateful. But I would really appreciate it if you can give me the opportunity to get involved in other areas as long as I get my job done in time. That's not going to interfere. But I love to work with your sales team. I love to work with your marketing team and whatever the legwork they need me to do. I'm happy to do that. It could be the conduit to Korea and partners. And she said, that's great. As long as you don't compromise your job description, do whatever you want. So from that time, I started making the cold calls. Because, when I finished my job at 6 o'clock here in the United States, it's just 7 a.m. in Korea. So once I finished my job, my new day in Korea just opened up. I was making cold calls to a lot of different sponsors. I generated some sponsorship opportunities. In 2.5 years, the company said, okay, every time I put you on a call with these people, you come back with money. So let me just move you to a tournament business and sales team. So after 3 years, I moved to a different position with the LPGA, and I was fortunate to get a lot of good people's help to create a lot of different tournament opportunity and sponsorship opportunities for the LPGA and its members. It got to a point where I was managing all of our sponsors in Asia, sitting in the corner office in Daytona Beach, Florida. That just didn't make any sense. So I told them, look, the greater risk for us, the LPGA, is not having a presence in Asia. I need to go. So we went through the board of directors approval. And in 2014, for the first time in LPGA history, we established an outside branch in Korea called LPGA Asia. And I've been running our business there since 2014. Our business and revenue has grown over 1,000% since the day I arrived there. So it's been a great success. And I did that for 16 years at the LPGA. I don't know if you knew that. Most recently as the chief business officer of Asia, kind of running all of our business and being the head of kind of the face of LPGA in Asia, working with government entities, sponsorship, TV contracts, licensing. So I've learned a ton, and still kind of in my heart, it's always going to be my home. But I've learned a ton of things there at the LPGA, including signing Golfzon as the corporate partner of this LPGA back in 2014. When I first opened the office in Asia, they were my first clients from that office. And so it's been just the foundation of everything I know, including the relationship of Golfzon as well as the simulator industry.
That's amazing.
That's a long answer to the question you didn't ask.
No. That's amazing, Sean. When you land in Asia to establish the presence of, you're the first one there for LPGA, right?
Correct.
So it's almost like you're starting a business, even though you obviously have, the brand and everyone behind you from nothing. May I ask, how old were you around this time when you did this move?
When I first opened the office, I was 32.
Okay.
But I was managing our Asia business since 2011, so I was 29.
Okay.
Before I took that position, it used to be run by executive VP of LPGA that used to oversee Asia. But I took that job from her when I was 29, and I think I've done a pretty good job there.
Yeah, more than a pretty good job. So you come there and you're almost establishing the flag for LPGA. How was that? Was it easy? Obviously, hard.
Buddy, what a question! What a question! So let me tell you this: you can look at me, you see a Korean American or Korean guy or Asian guy, but when I go to Korea, they look at me as American. When I'm in America, they look at me as Korean. That puts me in a very precarious position because everybody on either side looks at me sort of as an outsider. I'm not saying LPGA treated me like an outsider. I don't mean that, but I don't look like that, And although I look like them to Koreans, they look at me as American because I come from LPGA. I'm a U.S. citizen, and so I needed to understand how I can get myself into their cycle because of the golf industry and sports industry in Korea, even now too, but back then, back in 2010 and 11, it was such a small fraternity-like society or network, right? I didn't go to school with any of them. I didn't live in the same areas with any of them, and I didn't have anything. I'm not related to anybody. Only way I could break into that was consuming a ton of alcohol. So to get plugged into Korean business, I really needed to figure out how can I become their good friends in the quickest time and manner possible. And that's having drinks with them in Korea.
Sure.
So when I first started in Korea in 2014, and actually before that, starting in 2011 and 12, Monday through Sunday, when I'm in Korea, I would go drink with a client or prospect client, a potential client from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. every night. I did that for probably 3 or 4 years. I don't think that did me very good from a health perspective, but that's how I got plugged into that circle of sports and golf professional and sponsors in Korea. And that was really tough time for me because I didn't ever really enjoy drinking. But when I got there, it was part of the job and I excelled at it. And I'm a good salesperson when I'm drunk. So I did a lot of deals while we were having a lot of drinks. It's a funny culture in Korea, but people usually have their guard up in the first time, and you usually don't talk about business first or second time you meet somebody. But when you have a drink and you guys are both drunk, it's
Yeah.
so easy to talk business, you know?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that. I also was working alone in the beginning, but I started to hire people there and being able to really do the job much better than I did it when I was working out of a coffee shop without an office in 11 and 12. No,
Yeah. So you built a team over there.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Sean, how was it? Because you said when you were in Tampa or in Florida, I believe, you were cold calling. And even when you got there, sometimes some of these relationships maybe were warm, maybe they were just cold for the first time. But how did you even sort of, okay, this is a good prospect. This will be a good partnership here. Let me reach out to them, even though I have no relationship and it's cold.
I think first of all, like having those drinking buddies and relationship helps a lot because they connect you. You have to be pleasant, right? Like when you're in the sports business, no CEO wakes up in the middle of the night and say, if I don't have the sports partnership, my company is screwed. So you need to be that person that people want to meet and spend time with. That's important. So in the beginning, that was really important for me to do that. So, and then I looked at, of course, we've done some research, but when I look at as I've told you, I went to almost every LPGA tournament as part of the player services coordinator. I look at who are sponsoring our players. I look at who are sponsoring our tournaments, right? So sponsoring a player doesn't necessarily mean you're sponsoring the LPGA. They're two separate entities, and players are independent contractors. So if your company spends money with the player, it doesn't mean they're supporting the LPGA. I mean, greater scheme, yes, you're supporting the LPGA and one big component of the LPGA ecosystem, but they're not spending money with the tour, right?
Mhm.
But what's interesting is why is anybody sponsoring an LPGA player? Because they believe in the value of that particular player through the LPGA broadcast and platforms. So they've already made one level of decision that LPGA is beneficial for our business. So for me, it's really taking that business and grow that to a further extent. I understand you're sponsoring a player, but let me tell you what you don't get from sponsoring a player, how you can sponsor the LPGA to complement what you're already spending with the player, and how we can make sure even if the player is not playing well, how can I have your logo still be shown on TV telecast? That's how you complement the partnership. So that's how I went about. I looked at who's sponsoring, how many players, who are the new sponsors that just came on board, how I need to cut contact. Because if you have the player and they're sponsored, getting a contact is very easy. I go to the player and say, hey, I love your sponsor. Can I connect to them? And let me see if I can better your partnership and have an overarching LPGA sponsorship. 100 out of 100 players be like, no problem. Help me
Yeah.
out. So that's how I really identified a lot of sponsors. Company like Acer Technology, the Taiwan-based company, Volvic, which is a Korean company, Golfzon as well. That's how I got those companies to sponsor the LPGA.
I know you mentioned earlier, Golfzon was sort of the first partnership when you arrived back to Korea. How did that whole thing happen from being at LPGA for 16 plus years to then now Golfzon?
Well, so going back to when I first signed Golfzone in 2014, even our executive team had questions like, that's very gimmicky. Like it's a simulator. Back then, simulator was a video game, nothing more than video game. And like, why would we do this? And my point to them, along with Commissioner Juan at the time, what we told them is, hey, our job is to put the club in the hands of people. So what they choose to do beyond that is up to them. But if there's any way we can grow the game, and it seems like the screen golf simulator company seems to be doing that in Korea, like I think we need to get in touch with them and connect with them and see how can we turn some of your um, customers into our fans and to into in golfers.
Hmm.
So that was what we talked about, and that's how we signed Golfzone in the first place. And they've been instrumental to our growth in Korea and Asia. And so from there, I've always kept in touch with being the account manager for Golfzone. I've worked with various different executives within the company. But the chairman founder really understood where I was headed, and he was a big fan of some of the things that I was doing. For example, in 2020, when COVID hit really hard, the LPGA stopped playing, PGA Tour stopped playing. We didn't have any golf contents that are real time happening. So I went to Golfzone and said, "Hey, I got an opportunity for you. Right now, we got to avoid in competitive live events. Why don't we do a Golfzone event? So with your network technology now, we can play with Korean players in Korea versus American players in US, play against each other." So we had Lydia Ko, we had Indy Park, Nelly Korda, Jessica Korda. We were playing skins match between the two countries, broadcast. So he would say, none of my executives here sitting in under my payroll thinks about things like this. Why can we be thinking like you? And I said, that's not up to me. But I think this is not only, I mean, I'll be honest, selfishly, I needed it. I thought this would be a good help for you guys and your business as your corporate, sponsor and the tour. So I wanted to make sure that we connect the dots. That's merely what I did, and he loved it. And so from that point, he's been kind of recruiting me on and off every year. And it got to 23, and we really got down to talk about the real business. And I started to really see the simulator industry growing, and Golfzone being in position to make an impact in you at the North American business. So that's why I chose to be here today.
Yeah, that's amazing. You have such a rich history, Sean. What would you say you're most proud of thus far in your business career?
Say that one more time.
I was just saying, what would you say you're most proud of thus far in all of your business career?
I mean, that's a lot. By virtue of working for the LPGA, I think I made my parents extremely proud to have me as a son because, part of the story earlier was that I didn't get to is, whenever I come home from high school and my parents being there for the last couple of years, they were always watching LPGA tournaments, sleeping on the couch, having the LPGA tournament on. When they tell me, like Seri Pak is how you represent your country as a Korean human being. That's what you do, and that really stuck with me for a long time. And being able to pursue a career with the LPGA is, I think, very rewarding not only for me but really for my family and parents. So that's good. I mean, from an LPGA perspective, and from 2011 to about 16, LPGA was in a really bad spot. We were losing tournaments. In one year, we lost 33% of our entire tournament schedule. We weren't really successful signing a lot of new tournament opportunities in US. So there was a period of time, I think the LPGA and the revenues and partnership that we were generating in Asia was really feeding the entire LPGA tour and all of its initiatives across the globe. So I'm very proud to be part of that team. I'm not saying I was the guy who made the difference, but under the Mike Wan's leadership and all of the good teammates I had contributed significantly to the success of the LPGA and really the survival of the LPGA during that time. So I'm extremely proud of that. Um, so I mean, if I go into different like actual business opportunities, there's a lot. I mean, I've created the first ever private label licensing for LPGA apparel in Korea, and by the time I left with about 50 standalone LPGA apparel stores in Korea, and that's never been done before. So those are the things that I've done. I feel I've changed some of the ways an LPGA goes about their business today. And Asia just have become a significant part of the business and revenue for the entire association. And I like to think I was a big part of that.
If someone is listening to this, Sean, and they're saying, you know what, I'm in this organization, whatever size, small, medium size organization, and I'm like, Sean, I love your story, how you started as an intern and now you're CEO of this great organization. How can any suggestions or tips how they can maneuver as far as the corporate environment? Because just from very young, Sean, you can see you were hustling, you wanted to move up, you were strategizing strategically as far as where you saw opportunities. What advice would you give that person?
There's a lot, but I think first and foremost is just working really hard. Put 120% in every situation, whether somebody's looking or not. That's the first thing. And you really need to get some help along the way, which means you got to be good with people. You got to be that somebody that people want to help. You know, oftentimes or seldom you're going to meet somebody who doesn't want you to be successful for no reasons. People are generally cheering for you, and there are opportunities that you can take advantage of. Like you have to take a lot of initiatives and you have to take a lot of advantage of every situation, but putting the effort, that the most amount of work that you can, and making sure you're keeping the relationship, you're keeping in touch with them, and just try to identify different opportunities. Try to think of it. Don't try to get too like feasible or this is not going to work, but just think and make sure you listen to people. I always made it a point in my sales career to listen more than I speak, and I want to understand what their problem is to be and be able to really play a role reversal. Like, what would they want from me? Like, how can they help my business or how can I help their business? But I got in the habit, and this is coming from the book of Mike Warren, who's the CEO of USGA today. He told me always to have the ability to make their problem yours or mine. And whatever the problems that they have, make that mine and try to figure out how I can help that problem or solve that problem. That was always first and foremost of everything I've done since that time that Mike had taught me that. And so that's important. But initiative, opportunities, work hard and have a plan. So whatever I do today has to be part of a longer term plan in the process. Like it can't just be I'm just gonna do this because that's what I'm doing today, but have a plan and everything that you do every day, every week, every month, you should have a place for that in your plan. So I kind of live by that. And the last thing, and you're gonna make fun of me. Growing up and being in graduate school in first 5 or 6 years at LPJ, every morning I woke up as I was to leave to work. I looked at looked at the mirror every morning and said, whatever I needed to get done, I said it out loud 3 times. I said it out loud 3 times. So that really helped in a very strange way because like leaving the house, I had a pep in my step and I believed it. I believed in what I was doing. So even if you kind of run through a couple of setbacks, I knew it was all part of the process, and setback was part of the process too. So I think having that mindset and attitude is also important.
Yeah, it's many times it's just a mental game. That's where it starts, right?
I mean, the attitude is the only thing you can control in life, and you can't let anybody take away from that.
You just mentioned earlier, as far as having a plan. What is the plan now that you've come to the US, back to the US for Golfzon America?
Sure, sure. I think right now where our business is sitting in US, it's not about maximizing revenue. As a business, we all want to get to that point. But today is how can I have my system in as many places as possible? And that's not just the commercial customers. How can I get into fitness? How can I get into golf courses? How can I get into colleges? Can I work with HBCUs? Can I work with different kind of groups, different verticals? It's all about flooding the market with our systems, which we believe is a premium system better than really any competitor out there. And what that does is it creates and then it brings more people into our ecosystem. So I need to just get more people to try Golfzone. Once it does that, I want to be able to really create a robust ecosystem within the United States, which I already have in Korea, which I already have in China. And I want to be able to connect this different ecosystem into one overall Golfzone system, right? Eventually, 15, 20, 25 years down the road, I would love to see the simulator golf being an Olympic medal sport. And I don't think that's really that far-fetched. Because in Asia, we have this our version of games called Asian games, sort of like Pan American game, under the umbrella of IOC. League of Legends esport became a medal sport for the very first time in our past Asian game.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, and I think that could happen in the Olympic because when the IOC and Olympic Committee looks at it, they look at Pan American Game and Asian Games and see kind of what kind of impact that sport has on the people and the overall Olympic spirit, right? So if you have enough people playing the simulators, how could IOC say that's not a sport? So that's not just about golf zone. That's about full swing, the trackmans and foresight. All of the different constituents in our industry needs to work together to get to that point. And I don't think this is really that far-fetched. I talk to people at International Golf Federation. I talk to people at the LPGA, the USGA, and the AJGA. I talk to all these people. And when I talk to them about golf zone 10 years ago, when I first signed them as an LPGA sponsor, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and now, it used to be like no chance to wow, we've been actually thinking about that. Like, I don't know how to do that, but I like to start thinking about that.
Yeah.
Are the responses that we're getting now? So I know we're closer, and it's becoming it has become from something super crazy to thinkable.
Yeah.
It's an acceptable idea, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean that seeing that kind of a progression from where we were then and where we are now, which is no different than kind of what we saw in Korea, from people saying, why is LPGA legitimizing this video game company? Because when people go play this video game at Golf Zone, they don't buy golf balls anymore. They don't really buy golf clubs. They don't come to the green grass facility. Now all of those people have translated that increased, retail presence or more consumption power, more rounds played on green grass facility. It's just when you're short-sighted, it's tough to look at it beyond your own business. But once you broaden that horizon a little bit, see what kind of impact it has to the overall golf industry, I mean, it's undeniable. So, I mean, at some point, I'd love to see us being considered for Olympic sport.
Yeah. I can definitely see that now that you mention it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Now that I mentioned it, I can see it.
Sean, having this such a grand plan and goal, obviously you can't do it alone. You need a team behind you. How does your team in Virginia look like today?
It's great. I got about so we in the end of 2021, we had 15 employees in Virginia. Now I have about 60 here. And then overall with the remote workers, I'm a little over 100, 120 now. My plan is to double this number in the next 2 to 3 years based on what our customers and the business require. I've got mostly administrative team here, and all of our salespeople are kind of regionalized in the different markets and different territory. But I find the DMV area and DC area a great place to run a business. In the beginning, I didn't really understand why we were in Virginia, and none of our company executive knew why we were in Virginia. But having been here now, you got a lot of tech companies here. You're really close to the different policy making that are happening here, and you get a lot of feedback. And just a really good place to live in and raise family and be able to settle down. I mean, I'm currently living in Reston by the Reston Town Center. I mean, it's probably one of the best places I've ever lived in. It's robust and people are there and nice restaurants. So it's been great. So my idea was to move the company when I get here out of Virginia and DMV and explore either San Diego or New York option. We certainly have the resources to look into that, but I dropped those plans. Now I'm actually increasing I'm renovating to have a bigger space here and rented another warehouse down. I love Virginia. I love the DC area and I want to be here for a long time. And, I mean, I've already made that plan known to our executives and the chairman in Korea, and we're here for long term. And I mean, there hasn't been a ton of turnover since my arrival. I mean, when you go and take over another company, normally I think the average is 25 to 30% you let go and you create your own team. But I haven't felt the need to do that yet. I feel like I got really good people here. And I'm just planning to grow the company, growing the team, and growing the infrastructure we have. And I want to be the winner for Virginia, in US.
I'm happy to hear that your mind changed as far as possibly relocating to now just permanently still being here and calling it home.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you talked to me 3 months ago, I would have said, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to do a DMV interview because I
Yeah.
may not be here in 6 months. But yeah, like I said, even at a personal level, I've always thought Dallas was the best place that I've ever lived in. I grew up there during my teens and 20s. I
Mhm.
got a lot of friends and family, but I think that opinion has changed a little bit. I love this area. I just love the people. Like I find the people I don't know if this is Virginia or DMV, but I find people to be plenty kind, but also very straightforward. And I love the way they're always understated and how educated and sophisticated these people are and the way they think. I love it. Like it was never that easy for me to find somebody to have an intellectual conversation on a day to day outside of my normal business. But I can find it at Starbucks. I can find it at the North Italia. I can find it at a lot of different places there, and it's been amazing. Outside minus the cost of living, it's pretty expensive. But other than that, I think I'm at home. You
Yeah,
know.
that's great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Coming to an end here soon, what would you say is the biggest challenge in your role today, Sean, for GovZone America?
it's really, we're a company that was built and based in Korea. So a lot of the things that we do here prior to predating my arrival is people who are still sitting in their office in Korea making decisions for our business. So when I was working through the negotiation of taking this job, I told them salary and those things. We got those things out of the way in the day one. But
Mhm.
what I told them was I need the 100% full control and autonomy over my business in US. All things considered, every area of our business. Without that, I won't be able to do this job. I know how most Korean companies work. In my mind, what I would call irrational in a lot of standpoints. Someone who's never been to the States and never ran a business in US, sitting in Korea office making decision is what I would call reckless and irrational. So
Mhm.
those are the things that I need to really establish with our ownership and with our executives in Korea. And then really coming here, understanding these guys that work for me today were under that kind of regime where if Korea says no, nothing goes. We have all this great idea. If Korea says no, they're dead. I needed to bring their morale and their attitude back up to let's get this shit done, right? Let's get it done. Buck stop share, whatever the problems you have, I'll fix it. So it's doing that. And furthermore, it's really localizing our operation, everything from decision-making process to logistics to potentially even sourcing our own products here in US or North America. Did you know that shipping costs this year have tripled compared to last year?
Triple.
Triple. International shipping has tripled in cost, which means I'm taking on a lot of additional costs, and my
Yeah.
customers, unfortunately, are taking on a lot of the shipping costs. I don't see that being a sure business model moving forward. So how do I source some of our parts and products in US or North America where I
Mhm.
won't have to incur that kind of shipping costs? But that's really part of localization effort, right? How are we really creating our product lineup? What are the customers telling us? Like when it comes to a simulator business, so you look at our industry and that's sort of a launch monitor business and a simulator business. As it relates to simulator business, we don't really have competitors. Now, the launch monitor companies, like other companies that are coming up with simulator based on their launch monitor technology. So we are good in that regard. But launch monitor market in the business is a sizable and bigger business than simulator business in the US. Then we really needed to go and focus and hone in our technology in that side on that side. Whereas Korea sits and say, well, we're a simulator business, this is what we do. That's not what we're trying to become. I'm telling them, no, that's not true. What we're trying to do is get as many people into our ecosystem and launch monitor or different kind of a product line that customers are asking for is exactly what we need, right? Because
Yeah.
really, I always believe in the customer's always right kind of attitude. If I have enough customers telling me one thing, I have to investigate it. And so far, that's about creating different product lineup, being able to really cater to, because a lot of our customers are also now serving their customers.
Mhm.
If the customer is bringing issues to my customer has to bring that to me. And my job is to provide solutions that can so they can stay engaged and continue to employ us as a technology for their businesses. So that's been the biggest challenge for me is changing the attitude not only to Korea but also my team here to say we are in the driver's seat of running our business, and we would, if the Korea disagree, our job is to resolve that issue and convince them based on the data analytics and customer feedback versus okay, you say no, I'm good. Like
Mhm.
that's been the most difficult thing for me, but I think we're now there. And it's been a fun process for me. I can't really say nothing's been too challenging. But it's been fun, and I'm seeing a lot of differences and changes, and now I'm building my own development team just for the US products. Those are things that we didn't have before. So I think that's where I focus a lot of my attention in the first 6 months, just creating that kind of an environment infrastructure for my teammates.
It's currently all the manufacturing, is it all happening in Korea?
Correct.
Okay. Do you foresee that continuing that way, or do you see it?
Uh, You know, I think there are a lot of things that go into making that decision because we are a juggernaut in Korea. We have 7,000 locations and over 40,000 simulators just in Korea. What that means with the economies of scale, we can source a lot of our product at a cheaper price than what
Mhm.
would be here. So it's really understanding going through the full kind of purview of our logistics and operations. Say, where can we make where can we maximize the savings and efficiency, right? If that includes sourcing some of the products, let's say, I don't know if you're familiar with our product, but within our system, we have what we call swing plate. It's the floor that comes up and moves that creates different lies as if it's a real golf course. Well, that's about 800 pounds, right? So it's got a very sophisticated hydraulic system. So shipping that from Korea is very expensive, but also I have tough time finding somebody who could build the same system here in US or North America. So it's figuring out, could we do that? Because if I don't have to bring string play from Korea, shipping cost is less than half of what it is now. But then can I sell it here with can I source it here at the right cost when I'm producing 500 versus 50,000 in Korea? So those are things we need to get through, but that's kind of where we are in the process of figuring out what if the shipping costs triple again next year. Under that kind of scenario, how do we maximize and make our business more efficient and cost friendly?
Yeah.
So that's really all areas of our business. We're now even building our own booth. In the past, we would just deliver the system and the general contractor or their contractor would come build it. Well, I'm telling them, for me to build it, there are ways for me to even decrease or reduce the price for our customers because I'm making little money from construction. The customers are spending money on the construction either way, whether it's with us or somebody else. But if you do it with us, I can reduce the price because I'm making a couple of $1,000s of margin here. Like it makes it easier for me to digest the savings and the margin reduced revenue for me. So there are things that I'm doing that we're trying to figure out how can we be more customer focused and friendly without being too down on revenue. But at the end of the day, it's less about revenue for us today. It's about getting people to really be on our system and try our system.
Yeah. Sean, you've had such an illustrious career, and I'm sure you've had some key people that have helped you throughout your career. What are some lessons you learned from them? Like any mentors, and if so, what you learned?
Yeah, I have a few, but and I think I mentioned Mike Wan a couple of times. He was a commissioner of the LPGA for about 10 years. I was there. He's the guy who moved me from a player service to sales and tournament business. Um, he always lived by, I mean, there are a few things I can talk about, but he's the biggest, the most important mentor that I've had. And when I got offered this job from Golfzon, he was the first person I called and asked. And he gave me the pointer. He said, go. I mean, it's time for you to go. I've been seeing you growing at LPGA, but at this point, I think it's better for you to go to run your own business and see how that works. Um, but the one thing that stuck by me and still what I live by today is just make sure you run the right business. Whether it's margin and revenue, that's all great. But the people that are investing in your technology, the people who are trying their first business as an entrepreneur, you want to run the right business. If it's giving them a discount, giving them additional support, making sure that they know the latest technology is coming out in 2 months, don't sell them that technology. Just make sure you live right by them and do the right business. So what I tell people and all my salespeople and everybody in the building is this: if you, in your own mind, you are doing your customer right by doing whatever it is that you're doing, you don't need my approval. If that means we're making 10,000 less for each system or 500 less for this and that, as long as you feel convinced, you're convicted in that this is the right thing to do it. Like you don't need to worry about that. All the other things I would worry about it, but I would hate for someone to have problems with us because we want being honest, forthright, and running right business. So it's not just about selling. After you sell it, that's when it becomes more important. Because when somebody's purchasing a system from you and you're selling, we're all on the right side of mind and we're both happy and those things are usually smooth. But when they have a problem, when they encounter the first tech problem, when the machine's down, that's when you really find out how you're running the right business. So when I first joined Golfzon in January, and for the first 6 months, including like up until now, my first goal is to go to as many stores that are currently employing the Golfzon technology to really listen to them. Hey, what really works for you? Like, how can we be better? So we started the Golfzon newsletter that we send out information to everybody on a monthly basis. Now I hired the marketing operations person that goes into every sales, thinking about how can we help you promote your store. How can we spend some media buy? How do we utilize our own social media platform? I want to make sure the focus is on them. Just like at the LPGA, we focus all of our efforts in every single week on the tournament sponsor versus the LPGA tour. Their wins and success is going to eventually lead to and translate to our success. So my very, very most important thing is just make sure we run the right business by our customer. Everything else will take care of itself.
I love that. Customer's number one.
100%.
Yeah. Last question. When you're not busy running the operation, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
I play a lot of golf.
Of
So I
course.
like playing golf, and my wife and I play a lot of golf. And we have a small dachshund, a dog that we have that we like to travel. So I think golf, dog, and food are three things that we do. I play golf probably once or twice a week at the very minimum if I don't travel for golf. And then we go to all the nice, good restaurants, foodie spots. We'll go stand in line for an hour and a half if we have to, but we value the kind of the satisfaction that the Utahs that the good food gives. So it's highly valued. But mostly in my head, I never take time off. I can't, like, I'm just not wired that way. So anywhere I go to this resort, I'm thinking, where would be the right place to put the simulator and how can I impact their business if I put this in here? Like, how can I make that work? What do I talk to them about the budget? Like, what if they don't have budget? Can I just lease a simulator for free for 6 months to test their business? So my mind is always running. The only time I don't really think about simulators is when I'm on the golf course.
I love that you enjoy it, that you enjoy the business. I appreciate that because I feel the same way when I see another fellow business person when they think business is like play, like fun. Of course, with everything, there's ups and downs, there's good and bad that comes with it, but that's life and that's business. But if you see it as play instead of just, oh, this is tedious or work or complaining, it's a totally different perspective.
100%. Like, it isn't really work for me. Like,
Yeah.
that's the, I think, biggest difference for me is this is just like I'm more at playground when I'm at work than I'm at home, you know? So for me, like being here, just talking through and just kind of walking by, talk to people about different ideas. Like I shoot notes to people like 4 in the morning when I'm up and like, hey, obviously no response, but let's talk about this. Like I had this idea. Like that's just kind of how I am. And I think that's what kind of helps me being at least to my standards successful in my career is just being able to really enjoy. I mean, you can say I lucked into finding jobs that I really love, things I do things I love, or I have the kind of the unique, in my opinion, kind of ability to love what I do and make that personal for me. And I love winning, and I mean, I like to think I'm a winner. I like winning. I like it's not about salary or compensation, about money, but just being able to win with my teammates and see them grow and see them win. I mean, those are all big part of kind of what I do. So, I mean, this whole process of whether running a company as a CEO or being here at Golfzone, it's a big playground for me, you
Yeah,
know.
I love it. Sean, if people want to learn more about you and golf, so where can they go to, please?
They can go to our website at golfzonegolf.com or our social media channels, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, we're there. And simply, if you have any questions, I mean, you can put my email address very big in your pocket and say, email Sean directly as a CEO. You got any problems, any feedback to Golfzone, shoot it my way. I will get back to you.
Amazing. Sean, thank you so much for joining me today.
I appreciate it, Otto. I mean, hopefully I didn't bore you or your listeners with a bunch of my personal stories, but it's sometimes good to kind of like talk through some of the things I've done in the past and kind of hear your feedback. And it was a really exciting and a really cool time for me. So thanks for doing this for me.
Of course, the pleasure is all mine. Take care.
Thanks.